While I was spending the morning going through the news of the day, reading all the various websites, just basically getting ready, show prep. We had our meeting for the TV show, meeting for the radio show with all the staff and whatnot. Throughout that, I was watching the defense summarize their case in the George Zimmerman trial for the murder of Trayvon Martin, and then watched the prosecution summarize their case, and then came down here to the radio studio and listened to the judge give her instructions to the jury. I found it all fascinating and have my own opinions about it, but I wanted to check in with Debbie Hines. She is both a trial lawyer and a former prosecutor and a legal political commentator. She writes over at legalspeaks.com, and Debbie has just some of the greatest insights. Debbie, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tom.
It's great to have you with us. Well, I'm curious what your take was on what happened this morning.
Well, I think that starting with the defense, I think they did a really good job of what they had to do. But again, their job was really an easier job in this case because it is, regardless of what the prosecution may say, it is still a circumstantial case for the prosecution. Now, today there was the final close because the state has the burden of proof. It's always sandwiched. So the state starts the closing arguments, the defense gives their closing, and it ends with the rebuttal closing. And if they can get a conviction, it will be truly because John Guy just made it plain, clear, simple. It's not that complicated.
Yeah, my takeaway was basically kid walking home from the store. He's perfectly legal. He's not doing anything wrong. Weird guy chases him with a gun in his belt, and the kid ends up dead. And isn't this every child's nightmare that some strange, large, older man is going to chase him down and shoot him? And I don't see how there can be anything other than a conviction, at least for manslaughter. That's my take on this. But how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, it plays out according to the lens of the 6 women jurors that are hearing the case. So how it plays out with my lens and your camera lens is not the lens that it's being presented before. And so even with that, I still think that even though John Guy gave from a lawyer's perspective, regardless of what side you're on, his closing was brilliant. It was very, very stellar. But with those particular women that are on that jury, it may not be enough. It just may not be enough. I mean, Seminole County is still a conservative demographically county, so there are made up of people who are more conservative, who are more likely than not Republican, although we don't know their political affiliation, but the county is majority Republican, and so it's not that they're going to read it through the lens that I may be reading it through and that you may be reading it through.
Now, one of the objections that I had to the prosecution's summation was he said this is not about race, and then he said if it had been 27-year-old, he sort of reversed the roles, but he didn't. I thought he did a very clumsy job of that. A, B, I think saying to a jury that has no African Americans on it, it's not about race is like almost a way of saying, vote your prejudice. And C, it seems to me like there's a lot of race in this thing. It's saturated in race that I've said this to you before, that in my opinion, if the older person with the gun who killed the young kid had been black and the young kid had been white, we wouldn't even be having the trial. There would be a plea bargain about is it first or second degree or something like that.
It's interesting that's your take on that part of the closing argument, because from my vantage point, I thought that was the best part of the closing argument.
Okay, well, I defer to your superior observation on these things.
It's through my lens, and I thought it was the best part of the closing argument because he was saying it the way he has to say it, again, to those white conservative women jurors.
Right.
He couldn't say it the way I would want to say it or the way I may have written it out on my blog. He was saying that it's not about race. And the way you'll know it's not about race is if you would give the same verdict if it was 17-year-old Trayvon Martin riding in the car and 20-some-year-old George Zimmerman ends up getting killed. And that's how I think he had to play it with that jury.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out. That makes perfect sense to me too. Okay. But do you disagree with my assertion that there is a racial component to this?
Oh, it's absolutely about race. But I mean, there were, Tom, I followed the case from the beginning with the jury selection. There were blacks that didn't end up on the jury that said it wasn't about race. And again, like I said, this case is not playing out in Chicago or Washington, D.C. or New York or, or Baltimore. It's playing out in Sanford, Florida. And it's playing out before the people that live there.
Yeah, but it seemed to me that in George Zimmerman's mind, it was all about race, and therefore it's about race.
Absolutely. And we're saying the same thing. We're saying, I'm agreeing it is 100% about race. That's what I've always said. It's about race, and this jury's verdict will speak volumes about race in America. But you couldn't say that to that jury because that jury has blindfolds on when it comes to race.
Right.
The people there had blindfolds, a lot of the jurors that were black as well as, the white jurors.
Yeah, and even if they don't, they're supposed to. I mean, they're supposed to be doing this on its merits, not on the, if George Zimmerman's intent had a racial motivation, that was still a malicious motivation, and they should be looking at the malice part of it, not the racial part of it. Do I have that right?
Yeah, well, the judge, here's the problem. The judge early on, before openings, had said that they could not say it was racially profiling. So she took the race out of it there.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying, the way John Guy got it in was the way he could get it in.
Right. In fact, he referred to the defense using the word. He said, we haven't talked about this, the defense has. That's an important point. How long do you expect, first of all, is the jury going to deliberate over the weekend? And secondly, how long do you figure it's going to take?
It's really no way to know. Everybody that tries to second-guess juries, there's no way to know. There's some cases that have been big cases that have been, I'm wondering what is taking them 20 days to come back with a verdict, and that was the case of the Baltimore mayor where the jury was out almost as long as the case took. It's really no way to know. I will say this. I feel that in this case, if the jury comes back tonight, it's not guilty on all counts.
Really? Wow.
Yes, a quick verdict in a case like this, I don't think that the case is overwhelmingly on the side of the state.
Right.
And I think that if they come back very quickly, then it's going to be a not guilty verdict on both of the counts. I think that in this type of case, and it varies, there may be some people that say differently according to rules, but it's in this type of case where the victim is African American, and you're basically looking at the flip of things.
Right.
That if they're out a long time, I really feel that someone will be in there fighting for the prosecution to get that conviction.
Right. So the perpetrator's not African American. Nobody on the jury is African American. The victim is, therefore, typically that's how these kind of things go if they go fast. Okay.
And there may be one woman that is African American. Even today, they're still reporting that, I think it's B36, there's one juror that they're reporting as she's either black or Hispanic, so they don't really know. There could be one black juror.
Huh. Interesting. And one juror can swing a jury.
Absolutely.
It's
and I think John Guy that's why I liked his rebuttal close. I think he gave the ammunition to swing the jury if there is at least one.
Very interesting. Well, I want to have another conversation with you, Debbie, when this thing comes back. If that's all right with you.
Yes, absolutely, Tom.
Thank you. I really appreciate your insights and your thoughts. It's great to have somebody who knows what they're talking about that I can bounce this stuff off of. Debbie Hines, she writes over at LegalSpeaks.com. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, Tom. Glad to be here.
Have a great weekend. We'll be right back.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And Debbie writes at LegalSpeaks with an S at the end, .com. Check it out.